Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Johnson. I had a semi-tragedy the other day happen in my life. I think we all have it happen sooner or later, some of us, and unfortunately, the older we get, the more it happens. I had a friend of mine that passed away. Let me tell you about him. He was real good looking, had an excellent military career. He had written a few books, was very successful in business, and just someone that you enjoyed being around. He was pleasant. He meant to be pleasant. He was always kind of classy. He had a lot of customers. He was excellent at sales. And as I mentioned, he was very successful. It was his drive to be successful, and maybe that's one of the allure that had me enjoy his company so much. He often had me over for dinner, and I lived with him for a long time. I didn't live with him, but I mean, he was in my life for many, many years. I think I knew him about 35 years, something like that. And we used to get together and do things. We'd wander around the single scene. We'd find places to go and people to meet. He'd have me over for dinner, and we'd have lots of friends drop in, many parties and what have you. And he was very successful in real estate. And then he happened to buy a medical clinic. And after getting that medical clinic, it turned out that he was very, very prosperous. Now, he already seemed prosperous to me. Good looking, um, wrote some successful books. He was very pleased with most of his life, seemingly. He also had a dark side. He could get mad in a minute, and you were afraid of him when he was mad. You had to watch carefully what you said and walk carefully around him, but I guess there are a lot of people like that. And so in those many years that I knew him, it was hard to keep the friendship only because I was so hard to keep hold of. I traveled in missions, and so as a result of that, I wandered around the world. I lived in the Dominican Republic. I lived in Paris. Lived in Switzerland. I was in a lot of places, a lot of times, and as a result, people had trouble keeping hold of me or staying with me. So when I returned to the States at any given time for any purpose or location of assignment or what have you, I'd look up some of my friends from my group, so to speak, and he was one of them. He was one of them that was fun to be around and pleasant, always pleasant. Often would sit down and talk to me about what he considered his problems, and I listened. And then, interestingly enough, both his girlfriends and some of his friends would come and see me about their problems, and I'd do what I could to counsel them and help them and, put them on my prayer list and mention to the Lord how these people seemed to be doing and what God might want to do to help bless them and heal them and help them as they needed it. And my friend wasn't particularly religious. Now, he is very, very successful, and especially when he got these clinics, and he would get one after another. The clinics were very successful and brought in a lot of money. Sometimes I would come over to his house for dinner. He had a nice mansion. He always lived in nice mansions wherever he lived. There were always nice places to be, and so pleasant surroundings. And I remember one night sitting there finishing one of my hamburgers, I think it was, when we were eating and talking, and his wife came in. His wife at that present time, anyway. And when she came in, his immediate question, and I saw this several times when I was over to his place for dinner. How much money do we make? What's the bottom line figure? And I guess she would total up and get reports from the clinics that he had amassed over a period of time. He also had a big family. He had a lot of kids, and so what he did is, in his prosperity and in his real estate practice and success, he made sure that they had nice houses. And they not only had nice houses to live in from him, but he also gave them houses that they could do with what they wanted to do. They could sell them, or they could fix them up and rent them out. So not only he was doing well, but his family was doing well. And they were very happy, seemingly. They were doing okay. Now, probably in addition to the knowledge of this family is the lack of response to what the Lord had to offer, but he always knew my profession and didn't seem to bother him, and we could talk and discuss. Every now and then we'd talk philosophy or theology, but for the most part we'd just talk general news or what have you. So I enjoyed his fellowship and he enjoyed mine, and very healthy. He used to go out and do things like he would call me and we'd go play tennis. This guy, 10 years older than I was, always beat me at tennis. Not only beat me at tennis, but I remember, for example, one couple of days when we were coming from the court, and his house happened to be far away from the tennis court, it started to rain. So he picked up the pace and he started running. So I decided to start running with him. And we'd run to the house, get out of the rain. This guy was so fit, he was in such good shape that I couldn't keep up with him. Older than I was, he was in such good shape that I just couldn't keep running as fast as he could, and I just wasn't in. I don't think I ever got in the kind of shape he was in, even though we might have been semi-athletic. But he worked hard and he was getting rich and he was doing very well. I would say he was one of the richest men I knew. He seemed to be pretty comfortable and pretty happy. Got married a few times. His last wife was from overseas, and he was doing well. Seemed to be doing okay. I had been at his house a couple of days ago for dinner. We'd had a pleasant time, but I could tell that he was getting sicker and sicker as time went on. And his wife tended to him. He had a beautiful condo on the beach, beautiful houses in town, and had given his children houses, not only, like I said, to rent and buy, but to live in as well. So everybody was happy. Everybody had a lot of personal possessions. And then, as I mentioned, a couple of days I had eaten at his house and enjoyed his fellowship, and his wife called me and said, "Dr. Johnson, I want you to know that your friend has unexpectedly died." Now, we could tell he was getting sick, and he's seeing doctor regularly, and then he died. Well, my mind began to think about all the times that I'd enjoyed with he and his family, and we'd had a good time together. And I started to think, too, began to wonder about all that property and all that money he's got and all that riches and all that wealth. He had a big funeral, and a lot of people there, and it was a relatively okay time when it comes to mourning your friends. I saw a lot of people there that I knew that I'd met over the years. And then, having seen everybody and having gotten the news that I'd gotten about his loss, the funeral was not easy, but it was pleasant. But my mind has often wandered since. Here he had all these houses, all this land, all this real estate, all this money. And he had amassed money to his family, at least seemingly. But I couldn't stop running in my mind and remembering time and time again an old saying that I'd been taught. Only one life will soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. I often wonder where he is. I often wonder what he's seeing and what he's doing. And my heart quivers a little bit. I think what we do for Jesus is the only thing that counts. And you never know when you or one of your relatives or one of your friends or neighbors is going to disappear and be gone forever. Maybe we should remember the 3 commandments that God gave us: to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, and mind, and to love our neighbor as ourselves.